The grips. This video is going to be about the different grips that you can use to hit the forehand. Now, although there are 4 types of grips, in this video, I'm only going to concentrate on the Continental, the Eastern, and the Semi-Western. I'm sure you've heard about the full Western grip, but I'm not a big fan of that grip because in my opinion, it puts way too much stress on your wrist in exchange for a lot of topspin, which you can easily generate using the Semi-Western grip. So before we get started with the grips, I want to talk to you about 2 very important things. Number 1, rather than choosing to learn just 1 grip, I suggest that you learn all 3 grips because you're going to end up using them in your game. And although you can use any grip to hit any stroke, it's going to be a lot easier on your entire body to use the proper grip for each stroke. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is that the grips go hand in hand with the point of contact. And again, you can hit the ball in any way that you want, but in order to be more efficient and protect your body from injury, it's easier to hit the ball at the point of contact that is suggested for each grip. So let's start with the Continental grip. The first thing that I want you to do is learn how to position your hand on the grip. I'll give you an analogy. Imagine yourself grabbing a knife and pretend that you were chopping something with a big knife. What you will notice is that the hand is going to want to be on top of that knife. So the same thing applies to the racket. Your hand is going to want to be on top of that racket. So what you need to do is place the base knuckle of your index finger on the second bevel of the handle with your thumb on the opposite side, which is going to create a V. Like I mentioned on the analogy of the knife, you will essentially be placing your hand on the flattest part of the grip. Now by doing this, your wrists will be placed in a neutral position, which is ideal when you want to hit a slice forehand. Also, it's good for serves and it's good for volleys. And for the lefties, the index finger knuckle goes on the 8th bevel. Now let's talk about the point of contact. The most important thing to realize here is that comfort is the main goal for the suggested point of contact for each of the grips. Like I said before, you can make contact anywhere you want and you can use any grip you want to hit the ball. But if you look at my hand doesn't want to be in front with this grip. If you take a look at my wrist is showing me that it wants to remain close to my hips. So the ideal point of contact for this grip is slightly in front of your right hip, if you're a righty, or your left hip, if you're a lefty. So the next grip is the Eastern grip. I'll give you another analogy. Pretend that you are shaking hands with your racket. What you will notice is that the hand will have a tendency to go towards the right side of the racket, if you're a righty, or the left side of the racket, if you're a lefty. So the way that we position the hand for the Eastern grip is by placing the base knuckle of your index finger on the 3rd bevel of the racket handle, with your heel pad also resting on that same bevel. So this grip is ideal for hitting flat forehands. You would definitely benefit by choosing to hit a flat forehand when creating a passing shot and an approach, or anytime that you're looking to hit a very low or a very deep forehand. Now the point of contact for this grip is going to move a little bit farther in front. Like I mentioned before, you need to find comfort for your hand. So looking at my hand, you will notice that the hand wants to be a little farther in front than it was on the Continental grip. So if you were hitting, let's say with a semi-open stance, your hand will want to be lined up with your front foot. There's going to be a separate video on the different stances in which to position yourself to hit the forehand. But what I want you to keep in mind is the word comfort. Each stance is going to move the position of your entire body, including your hand. The last grip that I want to cover is the semi-western. And I want to give you another analogy. Pretend that you're positioning your hand to lift a free weight at the gym. What you will notice is that your hand instinctively is going to start going under the free weight, which is the same thing that needs to happen when you grab the racket. Think as if you were going to hold the racket from under the grip. So to properly hold your racket with a semi-western grip, you should place your heel pad and index knuckle on bevel number 4. So the ideal point of contact for the semi-western grip is in front of both feet. And do you remember the analogy that I gave you about wanting to lift? Well, lifting is always going to go from low to high, which is exactly what we do when we're trying to generate topspin. So this grip is perfect to generate topspin. If you look at the way my racket is placed, the strings are pointing down. So eventually, when you finish the stroke, you're going to automatically apply topspin to your stroke. Now, one thing I want you to be very, very careful with, and that is to not attempt to generate slice with this grip. Like I said before, you can hit the ball in any way you want, but by using this grip to generate slice, what you will find is that it will give you a very severe chop, which might even send the ball upwards. But the real disadvantage of doing this is that you will have a very, very hard time creating any depth or control with this stroke. One of the trickiest things to do is to switch from one grip to another. So keep in mind that your hand is not going to like the grip at first. And even when having the correct grip, it will move the racket in the same way that you used to with your old grip. Be mindful of moving the racket forward differently for every grip. With the Continental Grip, there will be a slight high to low trajectory while you go forward. Using the Eastern Grip, the trajectory will be pretty leveled, but ideally with the tip starting very low in the beginning, then lifting higher and finishing behind the shoulder at the end. On the semi-western, the trajectory needs to be a little bit more circular. Concentrate on having a loose wrist, then start by feeling the tip of the racket behind and under the ball in the beginning. Then move around towards the right side of the ball. Then continue to move the tip towards the top and front of the ball, and finally position the tip behind the shoulder. Because this grip positions the racket strings facing the ground in the beginning, it is crucial that you relax your arm, your hips, and your back in order to have a long follow-through. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a very short and low ball. So, to do a quick recap of the grips, think of slicing when you want to use a Continental Grip, think of pushing when you want to use the Eastern Grip, and think of lifting when you want to use the semi-western grip. See you on the next video.